There are currently 17 buffs and 20 debuffs in the game.
Well, they're actually called beneficial effects.
Yeah, no one's calling them that. And today we're gonna rank the best of them. We'll start with buffs. Debuffs will be another video because I don't want Michael to hate me. And frankly, that's just a lot to cover in a single video. Two things that I think are important to note before we go in. The first is that buffs that affect stat values, the percentages are applied to the total value. So that means after base stats, runes, summoner skill level, and leader skills. The second thing is the criteria of the video. We're looking at these from the perspective of impact. Like, how likely are these buffs to win you a game? Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. Number 11, Endure. Love it. Yeah, keep him at 1 HP. Look, but we all know it's over for Theomars as soon as that buff goes away. Something kind of cool to note about Endure, though, is that it is not a buff that inhibits damage. So the snipers can't ignore it. Because Endure is not reducing the amount of damage they receive, it's preventing that monster from going to 0 HP. See the difference? When you hit somebody with Invincibility on, for instance, you're doing 0 damage. The buff is inhibiting your damage. Endure is not a damage reduction effect. Number 10, reflect harmful effects. Honestly, this would be way better if we had more instances of it. At the time of recording, it's still pretty new. Like right now, it exists only within the Devil Maiden family, and only 2 of that family apply the buff. But Irene, the water one, is so prevalent right now that she is carrying the buff to number 10 alone. And in that situation, it comes with a threat state too, so that means you can force focus on the desired unit. And that's why threat is better than, well, you know what? We'll get there when we get there, okay? Don't make me turn this video around. Number 9, Soul Protect. Getting that revive is fine. Love the extra bit of protection. But if your opponent takes back-to-back turns, they can often just take down the same unit twice. Although I will admit this is a little bit better in PvE situations. Specifically talking about things like Tyrannus and Eladriel up against Tartarus. Like there, it's really good. But it's number 9. Number 8, Invincibility. Literally 0 damage. You'd think that that would get you a higher placement on the list. But when you think of really high impact invincibility, my mind goes directly to things like Pontos and Shiho, and they apply invincibility and immunity. Invincibility is at its best when you also can't get stunned. And unfortunately, on its own, you can't very much get stunned. Plus, whenever I think about it in isolation, I think about getting justiced. Number 7 is Threat. Getting to essentially decide what someone does on their turn is huge. Though admittedly, Threat State does give your opponent more flexibility in what they do on their turn than Provoke does, since they can still use AoEs in this example, but you also get a damage reduction. So taking over an opponent's turn, kinda goated. Number 7. Next, we have Defend, also known as Hug. It's a little wild that this is placing higher than Invincibility, but looking at how you can cleverly deploy this to punish your opponent for incidentally hitting the unit that's hugged is actually really cool. And you get the first skill effect of whoever put this on. We've seen this result in a strip stun situation with Chandra the Water Beast Monk. So that extra bit of disruption earns it this slot. Okay, we're in the top 5 now. This is the big leagues, and we're starting with the defense buff. This on a Fengyan or like a Copper Bulldozer situation in guilds does crazy work. My mind is also drawn yet again to Tyrannus, whose buff made him mine and everyone else's favorite unit in guilds right now. So in the aforementioned like Fengyan and Copper Bulldozer situation, it can increase damage, but it also does double duty by reducing incoming damage. And you know what they say, damage not taken is health not lost. That's basically healing. They is me, I say that. Funny, Feng's a good example for this one too. Number 4 is Counter. This is extremely powerful when paired with monsters that have a strong effect on skill 1. Like a 2-turn defense break. Don't read into that. Debuffs are the next video. This message was brought to you by Shazam the Light Beast Monk. I feel like I should add one more example into that. You know, so it's like we said Feng, maybe Josephine is another good example. You know, because she auto crits on skill 1 and also stuns. Or I guess you could just use this. You know, you could just use me talking about it. Here we go, top 3, Speed Buff. This is the buff that low-key gets you tons of turns. 30% speed is like getting another leader skill. In most cases, it's actually better than getting another leader skill. You can also think of this as a pseudo damage boost for speed scaling units as well. Number 2 is Attack Buff. This placement might come as a bit of a surprise, but you have to understand, the Attack Buff is a strategy facilitator. They say the best defense is a good offense, and that's exactly what the Attack Buff is offering. A 50% attack bonus is nothing short of intimidating. This is extra useful in situations where your team doesn't have enough HP to survive. We're not sitting there hoping to make it through the next couple turns. We're putting them in that position.
God.
Who needs to survive when there's no one around to kill you? It's also super sick in dungeons. So for all of that, it gets number 2. Let's talk about one honorable mention, and then we'll get to number 1. The Vampire Buff. This used to be unique to Ergar, the Dark Vampire Lord, but now, not so much. Really cool buff that also helps teams be less dependent on a dedicated healer. That's part of the reason why the Vampires Walking Dogs team works. And in RTA, it's why Federica can have a chance at coming back after her passive procs. Number 1. Was this even a surprise? It's immunity. The buff, so good, we use a whole rune set just to get it for 1 turn. It makes your opponents jump through at least 1 hoop before they can start applying things to you. So let me tell you this, debuffs have the biggest impact in the outcome of a battle. And this is the king of buffs because it counters all debuffs. Which is funny because I said the best defense is a good offense, but this would actually be a good argument for the best offense is a good defense. Okay, that's the end of the video, but this last part, if it actually made it in at all, it was Michael's choice. I'm putting this all on Michael, whether or not we leave it in, okay? For those who stuck around, it's Evan's top 3 least favorite buffs in the game. Number 3, crit rate buff, gets floated to number 3 purely because of Spiritual Realm. Number 2, anti-crit. I'd much rather be glanced on than not crit. Do you know what I'm saying? You can still apply debuffs even if you don't crit, but you can't apply debuffs on a glancing. Number 1 of my least favorites, so number 1 worst. So number 17 out of 17, I guess. Reflect damage. I have never seen this on a relevant monster. Like, only 3 monsters in the game even apply it. Lydia and Alexandra have a similar thing baked into their passives. It should be mentioned that reflected damage isn't taken. So it is reducing incoming damage too. But that's the only good thing I have to say about it. Okay, thanks. Bye.